Hi, everyone, and thank you for joining us at our Intelligent Industry stage here at Hanover Messe. We have a very exciting topic for you guys. We have the latest piece of thought leadership coming from the Capgemini Research Institute, the reindustrialization strategies in Europe and the US. So I'm going to welcome to the stage Pierre Begnon, who is going to tell us a little bit more about this fascinating study. Thank you.
Ladies, gentlemen, very good to be with you today in Hanover. And indeed, today I would like to address one of the burning topics, as we see a lot in the media talking about reindustrialization, and particularly the reindustrialization wave in the US and in Europe. In recent times, the global economy has suffered a few crises. You can look at the global pandemic, the energy prices that have skyrocketed, the global turmoil or geopolitical turmoil, which causes some unprecedented crises on the supply chain. So some of the supply chains have been reconfigured, and we've seen signals of reindustrialization. And with a recent paper that, and by the way, so you can download it through a QR code that we have launched. It's a study that we started at the beginning of the year, spanning across 13 industries from discrete to process. And we surveyed over 1,300 executives. Executives from global organizations with organization of revenue of €1 billion and above. This study is trying to look at whether we're talking about myth or reality, what will be the driver for this reindustrialization, what are the challenges, and what are the true impacts actually on those various industries. And an interesting finding is that 72% is the number of organizations that claim that today they have launched a strategic phase or strategic reflection for their reindustrialization. Actually, so a third of that have truly a strategy already in place, 2/3 have a strategy in development. And with reindustrialization, what do we mean? We're looking at several aspects. It's about the reshoring of production capacity that may have been transferred or outsourced globally, and bringing back actually to home, to a domestic market, or where companies are headquartered. We're also looking at nearshoring, which will be the same but in neighbor country. In addition to that, to have a full thorough definitions, we are looking also at investment, industrial investments that are made in order to augment production capacity or diversify it. And with this definition, today it's 47% of the companies that we have asked that actually have engaged already into some forms of reindustrialization. A third of them actually in nearshoring, 2/3 so reshoring. An interesting figure also to look at is when we ask them by how much actually they are investing in terms of CapEx but also OpEx over the next 3 years. And here it's not a commitment but a projection that they're sharing with us. It's $3.4 trillion, which means so 18% growth comparing to the last 3-year period. So with this in mind, actually, we're getting some signals that indeed a reindustrialization, is being occurred for US and Europe. Now, to understand the drivers behind, over the past decades, organizations have tried to optimize their cost base, and for this, they are massively offshored or globalized their operations. And the first driver was about optimization, efficiency. Cost was the driver. And today, with the increase of wages, energy cost, the change of import duties, it gives them actually a new paradigm on which they are navigating. And when we ask them actually what will be the reasons for this industrialization, what comes on top is the supply chain pressure and the need they have for resilience. As a matter of fact, for CEOs, resiliency is as important today as efficiency. And that's a new paradigm shift. Disruption is the new normal for the supply chains, and now they have to integrate how they can be more agile, more flexible, how they can face also the forthcoming challenges and crises that they will have. The second reason that they share with us, and that's a new factor which was not considered in the past, it's about sustainability. and we'll zoom on that in a second. What come among the top 5 reasons also is the geopolitical tension and national security. And that's typically on critical industries that can be the defense sectors, life science for vaccine, energy, are basically occurring, so an investment that countries want to keep an eye on. The desire to recapture economic value and increase competitiveness, where organizations are interested to bring back some value add and export some manufacturing goods. And of course, government, the policies, the regulation are playing here also a big role in their strategic design. Now, to zoom on the sustainability dimension. And that's one of the new findings actually that are being considered also in this strategic design plan, as those CEOs are looking at their production network design, but also so their supply network design. Looking at global transportation accounts for 21% of the global GHG2 emissions, which means about 8 gigatons of CO2. And when we look more closely, actually those transportation are by far the majority is on the road, with truck, passenger car, ships, and air freight. Of course, the overall transportation will not be reduced with industrialization. So if we want to look at the piece actually of the pie that reindustrialization will have a positive effect on, it's 8%. 8%, which is quite significant when you consider that the global manufacturing represents 30% of the global emission. So this is on this part of the emission that we'll have to elevate. A second aspect that comes into the equation is by reindustrializing, or in other words, putting the producer closer to the end market, but also reintegrating part of their tier 1 and tier 2, you enable so a closed loop for material, so enabling circularity. And this in the future could play an important role, given that when you consider industrial waste are 18 times more important than municipality or domestic waste, and plays 50% of the total global waste. And today, only 8.6% actually of those use are being recycled, which gives the organization a huge opportunity actually to enable this closed loop or material closed loop. And the last aspect is on green technologies. Are they reinvest in Europe? Are they reinvest in the US? Companies are investing in greenfield, and here they are looking at how, through sustainable product design on the process part, but can they optimize their energy efficiency, but also the resource depletion, and that's typically the investment that are made around green steel, green chemistry, or green mining. Not to forget, even though that's not a full reality today, the role that carbon capture could have in the future. So, sustainability is one of the major drivers actually for this reindustrialization. And now when we look at the second topic that came on top of the list, it's about manufacturing sovereignty. On the sovereignty front, when we ask the organization, actually 6 out of 10 today consider that it's one of the drivers that they have to take. And more interestingly, it's the trend. Actually, it's one point that becomes more and more considered. And the imperative here is fourfold. It's about economic stability, it's about national security, it's about technological innovation and trade balance. On the economic stability, nations which have a manufacturing backbone will benefit actually of diversifying their sectors and their industrial footprint in order to be less dependent of the economical cycle. On national security, we point out on some critical industries. It's typically about life science, it's about defense, that comes here on top of the list. This is also about energy. We should not dismiss some of the new factors which evolves around the technological innovation needs or appetite that those countries will have. And here typically the semiconductor space or the battery space are interesting factors, as it will help not only to recapture production, but enable new industries that are emerging. Trade balance, finally, it's how to recreate some industrial hubs in some regions in order so to create incomes, jobs, and growth. Now, in terms of perception, this is the ranking that when we ask those 1,300 executives, what they see comes through is around aerospace and defense. That's quite obvious. EV comes quite on the high list, medicine, vaccine, semiconductors, nuclear energy and renewable, and not to forget telecommunication and all the communication space, which is also seen as a critical industry. Now, reindustrializing comes with some challenges or key success factors so to be integrating in their plan. Four items. The first one is about advanced manufacturing. Most of these organizations took large benefits of gaining productivity in putting in place automation, data, analytics in their production. The big opportunity that they have is with greenfield, the occasion to design plant factories that are digital and sustainability native. And we'll see with some figures because they're reinforcing their investment on that front as they can actually scale and level up or compensate part of the cost disadvantage they will have on labor. Integrating the supply chain and making it more digital is also an area on which they invest. A second challenge that they face is around the skills and the manufacturing workforce. And it's particularly true in those new industries that are being invested. Take the example of the battery domain, hydrogens, on which we don't have, let's say, the skills for electrochemists, typically mechanical system engineer, on which we have to reinvest and upskill. But also some traditional industries, take the example of aeronautics, which is facing a big challenge of industrial ramp-up, as well the semiconductor industry, which is an industry which we used to own, on which we need to reinvest and build new skills. And here again, so digital is helping so in order to re-accelerate this workforce upskilling. Government legislation incentive is also a big challenge also for them. They have to navigate to some of the complexity. Some regions are more favorable than others. And here spending are made so around Green Deal typically, or the European Chip Act, or the IRA, which is from the largest actually investment that has been made since the Congress in North America. To help so on the climate tech and reindustrialization of North America. Finally, creating those value chain or recreating some of the value chain calls for new type of partnerships. Some of the logistics and the value chains have to be recreated or invented, and this is so where some JV, if we take the example on the battery front, we see so 80% of the investments are made so bringing some incumbent from Asia with OEMs in order so to invest and create those production capability. But also that's the case as they need so to develop on the supply chain with the active components. Now, I'd like to zoom on the importance of the digital. We mentioned it around advanced manufacturing. So an interesting finding is that actually the investment that are planned around automation, shared services, and remote operations are twice higher than what was planned so in the previous time period. Where clearly so those organizations see a high benefit in compensating the labor cost disadvantage by investing in technology. And what those technologies are about, with no surprise, it's about industrial automation and robotics, which still come quite high, but also much larger than it was before around data, AI, GenAI, cloud computing, and analytics so in general, in order so to create the closed loop and integration that they need. And beyond the traditional automation, the type of new services that are built is typically around shared services on how to integrate further so the research development and the manufacturing space, the engineering design, the supply chain management, and also combining it with remote operations. And here, if you take some advanced industries, semiconductors is quite remarkable on that front, where part of the production can be almost fully operated remotely. So creating some distribution plan network and facilitating so the modularity of those production capacity. So this opens up for new technology, but also new operating models that have to be designed and implemented. Now, to conclude, a couple of examples, and this research paper actually will give you much more concrete examples that are being put in force. In the life science, we can see in Europe and US what Novo Nordisk is putting in place with over 10 billion of investments in new production capacity, both augmenting some of the production capacity that are in place and investing in greenfield. In the same sector, so Sanofi have launched an impressive program with the Evolutive facility, integrating all the components of Industry 4.0 to create a production scheme that is much more modular in terms of vaccine production than it was before. On semiconductor, we have nice examples in Europe with ST Micro, with ST, with Intel, also with Bosch, but we took here the example of Micron, which has very impressive investments of 40 billion in the US with more than 40,000 jobs that will be created. And again, so embarking all the digital components that this industry can embark. And on the automotive front, I will cite two examples. One of Volvo that are investing in some greenfield factories, but adding to this all the investment that are being made to increase the production capacity of battery, and that's 90 billion all in all between Europe and US that will be spent in order to increase by factor 6 the available production capacity and creating thousands of jobs. Thank you. So this concludes my presentation, and I'm here for questions.
Thank you, Pierre. Are there any questions from the crowd? Going once, going twice. All right. Thank you very much, Pierre. Really appreciate it.